I had lost hope that there were good guys out there. I lost hope that there was guys that actually wanted to date. And that's kind of like what propelled me onto this journey, is finding those great, incredible men. And I can say 100% there are great guys out there who want to date, want to get to know you, like really connect with you, click with you.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Made to Shine. I'm stoked because we were just talking about this before, Liberty. But we've kind of known each other through the grapevine. I met you at a get together. One of my now bridesmaids had like a couple of months ago, and I was like, this girl seems really cool, but I didn't get to talk to you very much. So I'm so excited to have you on the show today. She is the host of It's a Date podcast. She is also the founder and starter of 50 Dates and 50 Strangers, which is blown up. I mean, it's just the coolest thing you're doing. We have the amazing Liberty Schultz on the podcast. Liberty, thanks for being on today.
Thanks so much for having me. It's fun to like actually be able to chat now, since we missed each other at the pumpkin painting event. Now we get to actually chat in podcast form.
I remember because context for the listeners on like, what the heck is a pumpkin painting?
You guys haven't heard of that?
My friend Kaylee, she had this like monthly hangout thing, and we all went and made pumpkins. And I remember I came early because I had to leave early because my sister is in flight school at Auburn, and we were all meeting her later that day. So I had to leave for Auburn, like kind of little after you came. But Kaylee pulled me aside and was like, you've got to talk to her. Like, she's doing like the podcast thing. Like, I just think you guys would really hit it off. Y'all are kind of like doing similar stuff. And I was like, yeah. And then I just ended up talking to people, and I didn't even get to talk to you very much. I was like, dang it, I've got to DM her. So yeah, I'm so stoked to have you on and be doing this. And Liberty, we, you are doing so many cool things. I want to get into all of it. But before we do, I want to start off with a question I ask every single guest on this show, which is, Liberty, what is your favorite quote and why?
My favorite quote? Oh my gosh, I have so many. I feel like, so okay, this is gonna sound funny, but my life has been like filled with quotes because my mom is a motivational speaker. So I feel like my life was lived in quotes because she would have these things like she would always say.
That's gonna be me as a mother. I'm like, my child's gonna come out the womb. I'm gonna be like, you are strong, you are worthy, you are like, I'm just gonna be spitting quotes at them all the time.
Yeah, and like you have to just be shooting quotes out. So I feel like I have these ones that I keep in the back of my head, but there's this one that my mom says that just like really sticks with me. And I was actually, the Publix half marathon was happening in Atlanta this past weekend.
Were you there?
Oh, really? No, I was working, but a bunch of people I know were in it. Yeah. So I use this to hype up my friends, and my mom always says this quote. She said, "You're not average." Wait, I'm not average. I am extraordinary.
Oh, and it's like with that option, it's like
power. Extraordinary. Yeah. Like, it's really more into it, but that's a great quote that I'm like, oh, I like. We're not ordinary. We are like extraordinary and
extraordinary.
Yes.
Extraordinary doesn't sound as great as extraordinary, but yes,
extraordinary. And that's like been I've been told that since I was out of the womb.
No, I mean, gosh, it's so funny. My mother as well. She's not a motivational speaker, but she loves a good quote. Like every single birthday gift, Christmas gift, it was like one of those. I'm surprised I don't have one on my desk, but they're like the little wooden plaques you can like put down somewhere, and it has a quote painted on it. That was my mother. I collect them. They're collectibles at this point. No, but I love that. And I think too, it's so cool. Like even on the through line of that, it is true. Like we all are each so extraordinary, but in our own way, like I even think about, let's take you and I, for example, we both have podcasts and we might say the same thing on our podcast, but the way I say it is going to be so different from the way you say it. And the way you say it could impact someone in a way that me saying the same thing could never impact just because you said it. It's crazy. I love that. It's so crazy because God made us all so uniquely. And I think when we think about the mission of the show, which we kind of talked about before this, but like every single person is a ministry. And that's because God trusted you with the space that you're holding with wherever you go. So fascinating considering what you're doing right now. And you're going, I mean, every time I look at your Instagram, I'm like, where is she this week? It's just like beat bopping around the country, but you're doing so many things, so many cool things. And you're going into areas and spaces with like new people all the time. And that can be scary. So first, just tell people like what you're doing and when it started.
Yeah, definitely. So September of 2023, the summer before that, I had gotten out of like a pretty tough situationship with one of my best guy friends. We've all been in situationships. They tear us up. They're terrible.
Yeah.
And they're not.
Define situationship, because I feel like we all have a different definition. What was yours?
Yeah, so a situationship, I feel like it can be like emotional or it can be like physical. I feel like a lot of times you're using someone that is for girlfriend activities, whether it's emotional support or whether it's like physical support or whatever. I think like you can use that as a crutch when a lot of stuff, that's for boyfriends and girlfriends, that a level of emotional intimacy instead of, relying on a girlfriend or relying on a bro. I think like a lot of times we enter that level of connection, and that's a situationship. And I feel like a lot of times people want a lot of what it comes down to too is one person wants to be dating, one person doesn't. So that's a situationship.
That's a really good call out, and that is so common. I was literally talking with a girlfriend this weekend about a situationship, and I was just like, it's so hard when you're in it, because you're like, it's birthed in insecurity. It's like they like the attention, but it's hurting someone else's feelings, and they know they'll get the attention. But yeah, anyways, I feel you. Okay, so you had this situationship and it ended.
Yes, I had this situationship. It ended, and I had got on like the apps. I got on Hinge, Bumble,
Same.
and
I was on Hinge for a season.
Oh yeah, everybody has. It's part of everybody's great story.
It's part of the journey at this point.
It is. It is. And I got on Hinge, and I was like going on dates, but like I wasn't really connecting with the guys, or it was really boring dates. It was bowling and drinks, and I was like, dating should be fun. It should be about connecting with someone, and like I want to get out there and meet people. And I remember I was on this road trip with my dad, and he was like, we had 16 hours in the car, and I was ranting to him about dating culture. What dad wants to hear about that? And he was like, well, what are you going to do about it? And I was like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. So I ordered this book that's meant for couples. It's called the Adventure Challenge Couples Edition, and it has 50 scratch-off dates in it. And I took that book, and I said, I'm going to go on 50 first dates with 50 strangers. And that's where it was born. I wanted to make dating fun. I wanted to meet the good guys out there and kind of put an end to situationships and actually really date.
Oh, okay. So this was September 2023. So that was a little over a year and a half ago. Okay, so now how many dates have you been on?
I have been on 44 first dates.
Wow. Okay. This is so fascinating. So tell me a little bit about well, actually, I'd be curious to, before we go into this part of your life, take us back to I think it's important when I think of what you're doing, I'm like, man, I wish I had that kind of confidence. I wish I had that kind of boldness. And that I feel like that's maybe a lot of people listening, like, man, Liberty, of course, she's so confident. Of course she can do that. But take me back. Were you always the kind of person that was just like, let's just do it? I'm just that confident. Was that just natural to you? Or was this kind of scary for you at first?
Yeah, I think in other areas of my life, I was really confident. I was confident at work. I was confident in sports. I was confident with friendships. But the area of dating was a completely lack of confidence area in my life. I dated one guy in college. I've had one boyfriend. I had never really been on first dates that much. I never really got out there. It goes back to high school. I feel like I was the buddy that would become friends with the boyfriend, and the friends would date them. That is a common thing. So I really lacked confidence when it came to dating and when it came to relationships. And I lacked confidence when it came to literally going on a first date. It was scary. And I was like, well,
it is scary.
The best way to get better and to get confident at this is to just jump in and do it.
Wow.
And it was terrifying. It was really scary. I remember that first date. I was so nervous beforehand. But
set us up. So first date, how did you find these people? Now it's blown up. I'm sure you have it's like The Bachelor, take this person. But
I wish it's not like that.
Okay. Well, in the beginning, how did you get prospects?
Yeah.
That's an okay way to say it. How'd you build your pipeline?
Yeah. So I created a Google form where people could submit friends, because I always had those friends hey, I want to set you up with someone, and they would be like, oh, I have this great guy. They never would set me up. And so I was giving them the opportunity to set me up. And so I created the Google form, and the first date was through that. Some were through like Hinge in the very beginning. I'm now off dating apps. Or like some were meeting out in the wild. One I met playing soccer. A couple at singles events. Many different avenues. Shooting shots in DMs, that too.
That is amazing. Okay, so let's talk about in the wild meeting people.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that is right now where people are at in regards to finding a guy. I'll never forget. This was before I met Hunter, my fiance. It was like a long period of me being single, which was different for me. Like I was the girl that was always in relationships, and that's also not great. So I was like, we're going to be single. We're going to do this, rah, rah. And then of course I was like, I'm going to get on dating apps. And then I was like, this is hard. I mean, I feel undateable. Like nothing's clicked. I feel unclickable with people. But I remember thinking, but where else am I going to find somebody? Like even my sister was like, I'm so sorry to tell you this, Annie, and I tell you this in love, but a really good guy is not going to fall from the ceiling of your apartment. Like you're going to have to leave your apartment to find somebody. Like, that was such a gut punch, but also like, yeah, I guess you're right. I love my apartment. How do you let's talk about in the wild finding people for a second. Like how has that come about in your experience with these dates?
Yeah, it's definitely scary because like you can't just be swiping on your phone and expect a guy to like come into your house and like be like, hey, here's Prince Charming. Like that's not going to happen. You have to get out there to meet people. And I feel like the biggest way to meet people in the wild is like run after the things that you like. So like I love sports. So I'm going to go to like sporting get-togethers. I know like a lot of churches put on like sports groups. That's where I've met a lot of my friends, but also like a fair amount of my dates through that. So I know that something's going to be in common. We're going to both go to church. We're going to both love the Lord. And we're also going to love sports. That's perfect. I feel like that's the biggest way is just going to things that I love and that I enjoy, and like meeting people alongside that. Now, like, are you going to find a man at a pottery class? Maybe not, or like a very like girl-driven activity. I'll try to go to ones that have like more boy activities. Like
maybe not your mahjong class.
yeah. Like not, you have to go to things where like men will actually be. But like run clubs. Run clubs are great.
Yeah. That's okay. So getting into, I know you like you said, finding people that are interested in what you're interested in. I totally agree that I met my fiance at church, and like what this was wild is I think you have to like what you're saying and what I'm hearing is like you have to find something and you have to keep showing up. Like it's not like I was a member of my church for 15 years and Hunter was a member of the same church for like 3 years, and we didn't meet until a year and a half ago. And but I kept showing up for, the Lord, but like also like he kept showing up, but it's like, you got to keep showing up. So I'm hearing it's like finding something that you would still want to go to, even if you didn't find a partner. Like it's not for the purpose of finding a date, but like you do. It's like a nice byproduct almost.
Yes, most definitely.
What would you say? I feel like a lot of Christian singles, like I struggled with this as someone who is single and was a Christian, and almost like I remember being in a season where I was 23, 24, 25, and a little bit in the beginning of my years of 26, which I am now. And I was looking at all my friends getting married and all my friends getting engaged. And I was almost like, Lord, like, are my prayers going through? Because they are getting all my prayer requests, and I don't have a date for their wedding. Like that's where we're at. So talk to me, like, have you ever experienced that and navigated that? And what would you say to that part of yourself and maybe someone listening in that feels the same way?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we're Christian women in the South, like people are getting married at like 20 years old, 19 years old. And I went through this period where honestly, like some of my bestest friends are all married. And that's been over the course of, like 21 to 25 now. Yeah. And it was a really difficult time. I was like, knock, knock, Lord, like, what's going on? Yeah. Where's my date to the wedding? Like, where are you? Like, are you hearing this? Are you listening? And it became like this really like frustrating time. I remember like over the last couple of years just being really frustrated that I'm like, what's wrong with me? What's this? Yeah. But now I've gotten to a point, and like also it was easy like with the dates to be like, why are none of these working out? What's going on? I'm on date 30. I don't like anyone. But now I've gotten to a point where I know this is brings a sense of security. That the Lord has such a plan, and that like casts my insecurities and doubts all the way to the back, like I have such a confidence, such a bold confidence to be able to be like, okay, the Lord has a plan. Maybe it didn't work out with date number 1 or date number 42, like that whole span it didn't work out with.
Yeah.
But there is a plan, and whether that's the growth that's happening during this journey, or it's that I meet a best friend along this, I meet this guy has a friend here, and this girl, the Lord has a crazy, crazy plan, and I'm here for it, and have confidence in saying that it's going to work out.
I love that you mentioned that. I think that, I was talking with a girlfriend the other day, we were talking about this, and she was like, so this is funny. This is an exposure of myself. So when I went through my season where same thing, I felt like, Lord, like what's wrong with me? I kept using the word unclickable. I was like, I feel like I've been on these dates with these guys, and the ones I'm interested in aren't interested in me. And the ones I'm not interested in like that are the ones that are interested in me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, is it ever going to work? Like, are we ever actually going to click with somebody where it's mutual? And I remember this is very me, but I called my mom over for a meeting, and I was like, listen, we need to have a meeting. I was like, I don't think I'm ever going to get married. I just don't think, which is so funny now considering my life. But I was like, I don't think I'm ever going to get married. I don't think I'm clickable, but I'm okay with that. I'm fine. I've looked up some adoption agencies. Like I'm going to be like, I literally was full steam ahead. And I was talking to a girlfriend the other day, and she literally sounded exactly like me. She's like, you know what? I'm fine. Like I can take care of myself. I can provide for myself. Like if I adopt, and like, that's my life. And like, that's amazing. And like, and this is what I told her, and I'd be curious your take on this. I think we as a society are such good catastrophizers. Like, in the sense that whatever this season is, we're like, this is how it's going to be the rest of my life. Like, but that's so silly if you think about it. Like even right now, I think about like Hunter and I, we do not want kids right now. We don't. We're not married. Like we don't want kids when we first get married either. But to say, because we don't want kids right now and we don't have kids right now, we're never going to have them for the rest of our life. That would be so silly. But I feel like we do that with dating. Like when we're in a season where we don't have the thing we want, we're like, oh, it's never going to happen. You know what I mean?
100%. No, yeah, there's been times that I've been like, I'm single forever. Like, it's going to be okay. Yeah. I'll be the best, like, aunt, or like, I'm going to get a dog or something, like, really, like, lead into these other things. And I think it's just, like, having hope that, like, that season's going to change. Like, we are going to have so many different seasons in our life, right? Like, think about you 5 years ago. That's a completely different season than what you're in now. And I think that's really cool to look at. Like, the Lord's going to put us in different seasons to impact other people, to like meet different people. And whatever season you're in, it's gonna change. It's gonna work out. It 100% is.
That's true. I'm curious for you, like, I feel like, again, as Christian singles, and I thought this way, like it's what's the dance for you, and what does that dynamic look like in your life between, like, I feel like we separate faith that the Lord will provide and the need to actually put yourself out there. It's like, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, the Lord's going to provide, but honey, you haven't left your apartment in 6 business days. Like, it's like maybe the DoorDash driver, maybe, but like, you gotta, like, how have you navigated that? Like this, you have just this effervescent, like I can see it on your face, this faith, like God's got you. He's got a plan for you. You are also putting yourself out there. So talk to me about how you found that those two aren't opposites, but actually like work in tandem from what I've seen.
100%. Yeah, I definitely have had friends that have fallen into the category of like, the Lord's going to provide, the man has to pursue me. I'm like, well, dude, you're sitting on your couch. You haven't met any new people in the past 6 months. Like, where's he going to come from? Is he going to like be the UPS Amazon delivery guy? Like, I don't know. And I've seen friends in that spot, and it's been interesting to like encourage them and see their growth to like wanting to get out there and stuff. But I stand by that. We have to like, we can pray, and we can pray a whole bunch, but we also have to be proactive. We have to do things. Like, the Lord calls us to take steps and to be active, to meet people. And we can't just sit there on our couch. We have to proactively be doing things and praying. So proactive prayer, I feel like, is the biggest thing. You can
That's
be
so good.
faithful
Yeah.
and also take steps, you know? Like we're
I
not
love that.
called to sit still.
Yeah, no, I love that. Speaking of quotes, I don't remember who said this, but it was like faith is in your feet.
Mhm.
And it's how you in like recently, this is made me sound like such a nerd, but I kind of am. So I've been really into like Hebrew translations recently. And
Ooh,
so I've been like Googling nonstop. And a word I've been really interested in the like difference between belief and faith, because I think we use those words interchangeably. Like, I believe the Lord has a plan for me versus I have faith the Lord has a plan for me.
yeah.
They actually mean two very different things.
Oh yeah.
So belief, if like the Hebrew in the Hebrew translation things, like belief actually just means like you trust something that's true. Like I believe that chair would hold me up if I sat in it. Or I believe my car, when I turn it on, will drive me somewhere.
Mhm.
Faith is me actually getting in the car and not worrying whether or not it's going to turn on and going somewhere.
Mhm.
Faith is in your feet. Like it's how you move based on your belief. And I feel like we have so many Christians that have a belief in God, but like, and I don't mean to say this harshly, but like they don't have the faith muscle. Like
Yeah.
their belief doesn't impact the way they actually live out their life.
Mhm.
And I think like what you're saying is, yeah, it's like, I have faith the Lord has a plan for me, so much so I'm gonna put myself out there, go on these dates, and guess what? If it's not the guy for me, I can't force it. And if it is the guy for me, I can't stop it. Like it's just faith that you can't mess it up, is what I'm hearing, you know?
Yeah, I think definitely. And I feel like we have to like exercise that faith muscle a little bit.
Yeah.
You're right. Like I feel like it does come through like a walk and a journey with the Lord. There's been so many times that I've been like, oh, this isn't gonna work out. And the Lord's like, it's okay. It's
okay.
fine. And it always is fine. It's always okay. Or I learn something out of it or grow closer to the Lord because of it. And that's because that faith muscle is being activated, you know? Like you're not gonna get strong unless it's being worked on, which the Lord has worked on it.
Yeah. I mean, you played sports. Like what sports did you play?
I played softball in college for 2
You
years.
did? Okay,
Yeah.
I played tennis. So, but yeah, like in sports, it's like if you don't work a muscle, it atrophies. Like you have to, and you don't just work out your bicep one time and it's strong for the rest of your life. Like you have to keep doing it or else you're either growing and getting stronger or you're dying. Like there's no neutral when it comes to growth and faith or belief or anything like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and sometimes it sucks. Sometimes it sucks working out.
Yeah.
I hate CrossFit. I hate doing that stuff, but sometimes you have to do it. And it's hard, but it's part of it.
It is hard. I'm curious for you, like, I feel like fear of, like, how has this entire experience reshaped your relationship with rejection or getting, you know what I mean? Like, I don't even know if there have been people that have said like, no, I don't want to go on a date with you, or like, okay, talking about that. Cause I think that's the biggest thing. It's like, I think some people are out there like, I don't even want to put myself out there because if I get rejected, it's confirmation bias. Like in psychology, we look for the evidence that supports what we already believe. And then they're like, oh no, I really like, yeah, I got rejected. I'm not coming back from that. So how have you navigated that?
Yeah, I have been rejected a lot. Like it is part of it. It has truly been amazing. Whether it's like I've gone on a date with someone and I've been like, oh, I really like this guy. He's really great. And I won't like shoot my shot, but I'll like be like, hey, would love to go out again, blah, blah, blah. Early on, I've got many texts. Oh, I didn't feel a romantic connection, or like something like that. It's just rejection.
Yeah.
Or like other things. Like I paused the series and was going out with a guy for like 2 months. And he ended up not wanting to continue dating. That's another form of rejection. Or like even shooting shots in DMs. I DM like a fair amount because I have a couple more dates left. I need to find, no shame.
I get all my podcast guests on Instagram DMs, basically. It's a great method of communication.
Yeah, and so, or like I DM'd someone last week and they were like, what? No. Why would you why me? And so like constant forms of rejection have happened through the series. I've really like learned so much about resiliency and how even sometimes you have to take a step back when you've been rejected a lot. Take a break, kind of heal, spend some time with the Lord, spend some time with the friends, go for a run. And you have to take a step back, but like you gotta come back and you gotta keep swinging and keep trying. And it's really hard. I mean, I've been rejected 50,000 times. I don't even know how many times. And it's
Yeah.
it really is, but it's part of it. And I put a podcast up on my podcast about this last week, and someone commented like, rejection is just redirection, which it 100% is. It really is. It's just leading you closer to that person that you're supposed to meet, or closer to some sort of growth that you're supposed to have.
That's so true. I think there's also, do you know who Janie Kern Lima is? She's like a motivational speaker, so I wasn't sure if you heard of her.
She might be friends with my mom.
Probably. She says rejection is protection too, because she founded It Cosmetics, and it IPO'd a massive amount. She's a billionaire, but in the beginning, she was rejected by so many people that would fund, like investors, and they were straight up mean to her. Like, just said, this will never work because you are overweight and you aren't. And like, it was personal. And she was like, it completely reshaped like my relationship with rejection, because it really, God was protecting me from these awful investors that were going to be horrible for my baby. And I think that is so, because oftentimes the reality of it is it's really not the other person rejecting us before we have already rejected ourselves. You know, like, it's that self-rejection that I think we all struggle with every single day. And like, we are so aware of our inadequacies. And even now, like, oh my gosh, this is so funny. Again, exposing myself. I was on Hinge, and this was well before I met Hunter. And I was on Hinge, and I matched with like this rodeo cowboy. And Liberty, I'm telling you, I think I told this before on the pod, but ever since I was a little girl, dreamed of marrying a cowboy. Like, that was just my...
Is Hunter a cowboy?
What? Hunter's not, but he wears cowboy boots for me. And that's okay. He's a Chicago cowboy. But all that to say, I was like, oh my gosh, Lord, I know this is it. Like, this is an answered prayer about the rodeo cowboy. And we went on a couple of dates, and it was super fun. And I remember he called me and was just like, he used that word. He was like, I don't feel like we clicked. And I was like, me feeling unclickable all these months. And then the one guy like really did like, it was like, but looking back, it was like so God's protection. But I mean, it's so, when you're in it, you can't see that. It's like, you just see, oh, I wasn't good enough. Like, I wasn't good enough for them to want to keep going on with, you know what I mean? And that can just be a sucker punch. And I think it's like, I don't know what you think. For me, I feel like I had to get to the point where I had to realize I am not for everyone. I'm not. And that's the facts. Like, I can't please my way into every single guy liking me and wanting to go out with me again. And I don't know, like, would you say you've kind of, like, what's your relationship with that? I wouldn't say rejection from others, but almost like self-rejection, or like how you see yourself. How does that look?
Yeah, I feel like it's these lies that we always tell ourselves that bump around in our head. Back to the protection thing also. I actually, literally today, I shot my shot on my phone. I texted one of the dates, and I was like, hey, would love to have you come back for a date, because I really liked him. And he said no, but I instantly felt this like protection. Honestly, I turned to my roommate and I was like, that's the Lord protecting me. Anyways, just thought that was interesting that you said that.
No, but I think that, again, I'm going to say this again, because I just really feel it's going to help somebody. Like, if it's what God has for you, you're not going to be able to stop it. And if it's not, you are not going to be able to force it. God, if you yourself aren't going to listen to the Spirit being like, red alert, maybe not because it's a bad thing, but it's just not the ultimate thing. God will speak through that other person too. And they might say, no, we're not continuing for you, because you aren't going to be able to, you know? So continue, definitely. But I love that.
Yeah. Wait, okay, so what was your question?
Like, your relationship with like understanding you're not going to be for everybody. And that doesn't mean you're not good enough. You know, like, what does that look like?
Yeah, I think definitely. I feel like I found myself in this thing that I tell myself a lot, where it's like, oh, you're only ever going to be a friend of these guys. You're only ever going to be in the friend zone. And I feel like it's just like this constant thing, because most of these guys have like turned out to be friends or whatever. And that's fine. I have like 40 new friends and 40 new connections and people that I really enjoy. And I think like I constantly tell myself like that's what I'm going to always be. But eventually I am going to click with someone in that different way where it's not just this friend zone. And I feel like it's just this lie that we constantly tell ourselves where it's just like, that's a bad thing being in the friend zone. Is it?
Yeah.
It's not a bad thing. It's a great thing. I like, that's another person I can invite to my birthday party, you know? Like, that's totally fine. And I think it's, we just have to flip it to something positive, you know? Like,
I love that.
you saying that you like aren't for everyone or clicking for everyone, right?
Yeah.
But that just leads you closer to your person. Like, that's not a bad thing, you know? And it did work for you. Like, you ended up with someone that you actually click with.
That's true.
And I feel like we just have to like flip it a little bit. It's not bad that these guys want to be friends with me.
Yeah.
And like some of them have like wanted to continue romantically, and that's awesome. That's great.
Yeah.
So I think it just depends.
I love it. You know, it reminds me of something. I remember I was sitting in the driveway with my dad, and this was like, I was like crying. I was like, I'm never going to find anybody. And this might have been after Rodeo Cowboy. And I was like, I'm never going to find anybody. And my dad was like, sweetie, I think the Lord is like, you're going to remember how painful this season was for you. Not painful, because singleness, there were some like amazing moments in my singleness, but there were also some moments where I was lonely, and I was like, Lord. And so he was like, I think you're like, what Lord's doing right now is he's taking you through a season where you're like, when you do meet somebody and when things get hard and when it would be easy to walk away, you're going to remember us sitting in the driveway right now and you're going to stay. And like when you said like the unclick thing, yeah, I mean, like, I did not click anybody for years, and I tried. And then when Hunter and I did click, I was like, whoa, like I felt it and I knew it. And it was mutual. We were like, we clicked, like we felt it. And it's almost like you kind of go through, it's like shopping. It's like you tried a bunch of clothes that aren't it. And then when you find the dress, it's like, booyah. You're like, I'm purchasing this one. I don't need to see any more dresses.
Right. It's almost easier like having this like very strong thing that's like, you're just going to be friends. You're not going to be clickable. Because then when it does work, it's so easy to see it. The times that like it has been like not just friendly, then it's like, oh, that was so easy to see. It's not clouded by all this because there's this like big, long struggle arc, you know?
Yeah, that's so true. Okay, so I want to get back to situationships for a little bit here, because I know that's something that you mentioned was in your path, like you had a situationship that led to all of this, like the ending of that. And I think that there's probably a lot of girls that are in that position where they, like, especially as girls, we are, well, I won't make blanket statements. A lot of people fall in the camp of wanting to, like they're so hopeful for potential. Like there's the potential. Like I remember there was a situation where like I really liked this guy. This was years ago. I was like in college. I really liked this guy and we were such good friends. And he like never told me how he felt. But we like went on all these dates. He took me out for my birthday, but he never told me what was happening, never told me anything. And it was just frustrating beyond belief. But I was like, but the potential is there.
Yeah.
And I just kept, and so talk to me about like, especially now as you have like all these new friends, which is such a good thing, kind of what are the trail markers you have in place that you're like, okay, I'm like, I need to watch out here because like, there's a difference between a pattern and potential. Like what would you speak to that about?
Yeah, most definitely. And since that situationship, I've definitely been able to like, I feel like sometimes we just got to go through it because it allows us to be able to like recognize the scary points, like where it starts to turn situationship-y moving forward. And I learned so much from that situationship where now I can kind of detect it a little bit easier. Like recently there was this guy, whatever, I felt it entering kind of situationship-y territory and I was like, whoa! I was like, we got to get out of here. I was like, this is bad.
You're like allergic.
I know, I'm like, man, I'm going to have an anaphylactic reaction. Like,
the EpiPen.
Yeah, literally. So I got to this point. I think some of the things that I was noticing that were like easy flags to watch out for. One being, I feel like it's like leaning on someone like they're a boyfriend or a girlfriend, but they're not. You know, like texting like these big long things, or like just like emotional support when it's like, okay, like this girl's not your girlfriend. Why are you leaning on her like that? Or things that I was doing, like spending a lot of time one-on-one in these like datey situations, you know? And I feel like we have to like protect ourselves some way. And now I will say in the early stages of dating, or like when you're like friends with someone, like you're gonna have to kind of do those things.
It's like a dance. You have to figure it out.
It's a dance between like, okay, am I like letting this cook and seeing what's here and kind of like leaning into this with this guy friend to see like if we can date, or is it like situationshipy? And I think that's a very fine line.
Is the fine line there just like length of
Yeah,
dance?
I would say length of the dance, because
What's like too long, you think?
oh gosh, it's hard. I feel like it's gonna depend for every person. I would say like my breaking point was like 2-3 months. I was like, okay, if he hasn't like said how he's like feeling yet, like he's had enough time to
I
like
think 2
figure it out.
months, yeah, it's like, bro. And
Yeah.
not only that, but like, I think especially as Christians dating, you're looking for leaders. Like, you like you're gonna like you want to be led by someone, and not like in a bad way, but in an inspiring way, in an encouraging way. They're supposed to take care of you, and it's like, sister. I mean, if they can even tell you how they feel, how do you like? Come on, like you're not even like your basic needs aren't even being met. Like, like there's two people in situationships. There's the person, like you said this, there's the person that cares more and wants the potential to happen. And then there's the person who cares less, but likes the attention.
Yeah.
And like the person who cares more is going to get hurt because it's probably never going to happen. But then the person who cares less, they're also getting hurt because they're basically taking themselves out of the opportunity. If Mr. Right or Mrs. Right did come along, they have this weird, I don't want to say baggage, but this weird situation that then the Mr. Right or Mrs. Right is going to have to talk like it's just a whole mess, you know?
Yeah, it is just a mess. It just doesn't need to happen.
I love that. What would I think, okay, last practical piece of advice, because I just think this is so true. And then I have one last question to ask you is around like how would you practically end a situationship if it is a friend that you really care about and you're like, is this gonna ruin the friendship?
Yeah. I guess see, okay, so the situationship I ended like not great. Like we're not friends anymore. And I feel like it just like had to break off in that way at that point. But I would love if there was a situationship for it to end as friends. I feel like the biggest thing is just communication. And someone is gonna get hurt. Someone's feelings are gonna get hurt. They're gonna have to take time to like be apart, be separate, and then like maybe come back together with like a friend group or something where it's still sore, it's still a little tender, but you can be friends. I would say just is communication. That's the biggest thing when it comes to dating in general. Like even there's been guys I've gone out with like 3 or 4 times and like we're just kind of like not feeling it or whatever reason. And we've had to talk about that and communicate about that. And I feel like that really makes me just like respect the person more when they address like how they're feeling or communicate about that, because communication is like it's kindness in dating. That's the best thing that you can do is just talk about it and be open about how you're feeling. Keep people posted on how you're feeling. That's the simplest thing you can do in dating.
That's so true. I think also like what you've been saying a lot too, like the clean break, like what is said, just as you just mentioned, is just as important as what's not said. And what I mean by that is I think, I don't know, I feel for girls. And I've been in a situation like this before where it's like the friendship means so much to you. You had the situationship. So you have this conversation like where this is never going to happen. We're not going to date. And then you go right back to texting all the time.
Oh yeah.
And you're like, what? Like, absolutely not. You like clean break, no more texting, like no access. I just feel like people just give so much access. And it's no.
Definitely. I did that during this situation. We'd be like, we're cutting this off, and then go right back to it. Cutting it off, right back. It takes like 3 times, honestly. And then it's like done. Someone has to get hurt bad enough for it to end. And I feel like if you just clean break it and communicate about it, then it's gonna break a lot cleaner than that 3-time revisit.
I hear you. Okay, last question I'm gonna ask, because this is so I feel like when I talk to a lot of girls that are dating, and I felt this way, especially, it's like this notion, are there any good guys left? And especially, okay, Liberty, you're gonna laugh at me, but this weekend I watched the Gabby Petito murder story.
I know, I'm not watching it. It looks scary.
I literally called my fiance and I was like, I am so grateful I met you before I watched this documentary, because I know you're not a serial killer because you like hate killing ants. Like, you know, it's like, he's just such a gentle human. I'm like, I don't think I would have put myself out there after watching this show. And, but I guess, okay, that's my question for you is like, I talk with so many girls and seriously, like, like that's the extreme, but even just guys that like, can put on a facade so well of being kind and loving the Lord, and then they like they cheat on you, or they do things that are like, they say really mean things, and then even like, especially in a Christian center relationship where we're called to submit to our husbands, and that can be kind of scary, especially if all you see are really mean guys
Yeah.
ordering you around, and it's like, well, is there any good guys left? And so I'm curious, like, have you ever felt that way? And kind of, what's your relationship with what you're doing? Like, what are you seeing? Tell us what you're seeing out in the wild for the girls listening.
Live from the scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was definitely a spot I was at before starting this journey. I had lost hope that there were good guys out there. I lost hope that there was guys that actually wanted to date, and that's kind of like what propelled me onto this journey, is finding those great, incredible men. And I can say 100% there are great guys out there who want to date, want to get to know you, want to like really connect with you, click with you, and like they want to go on real dates, and there are great guys out there. And I think there are scary things that happen in the world. We have to like take protective measures to protect ourselves. Like, don't go ride with someone on a first date that you met on Hinge, or like share your location. Like, very practical things we can do to protect ourselves. But I think we have to leave ourselves open enough to be able to meet someone great and meet someone incredible. And there's good guys out there, 100%. I've met, 35 of them, or 40 of them. How many dates have I been? I've been on 44. I would say like 40 of them have been great guys.
What's your favorite date you've been on? Like, things that you've done.
Yeah, definitely. So I have two, probably. I love, like, I don't know, something about dancing with a man, like swing dancing specifically. Not like
that is so fun. I wish I looked at dating like you look at it. Like, I got to the point where I was like, no more dinners. I don't want any more dinners. If we're going to go on a date, we're going to walk so I can get some steps in. That sounds so bad, but I was like, that's where I'm at. But if I was swing dancing, I'd be like, let's date all the time.
Yeah. I love swing dancing. I think that's so fun. Well, it like breaks the touch barrier a little bit, where you're like kind of awkward and tense on a first date. And it's like fun, but it's not like
crazy,
too romantic, where it's like kind of like dancey, but best activity I've done was, we had to take an air mattress out to a lake and float on it and have a picnic on it. And we did it in last February, and it was like 40 degrees. We jumped in the water. It was really cool.
Which lake did you go to? Like,
we went to this little like duck pond out by Stone Mountain, and it was like honestly in this like kind of ratchet neighborhood, but like we went out there, and like all the neighbors were walking by looking at us.
And you floated? Like, it worked?
Oh yeah, it was awesome. It was great.
Girlfriend. Okay. And what's that? No, that's amazing. Okay, well, just to wrap it up, because I know we're at time, but I could talk to you all day. What you're doing is so cool. So how many days have you been on?
44 first dates.
So you have 6 more left. How are you feeling? Like, with 6 left? Like, is it kind of sad it's ending? Or are you like, oh, I'm ready for it to end? Or like, will you take a dating hiatus after this? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. I have a few more left, and I think like over the last couple, I've struggled a lot with being like fully present during them, because I'm like looking at what's next, or like what's gonna happen. So like the last couple, I've been trying to be just like incredibly present, incredibly there. Like I could literally meet my husband doing this. That's crazy. And I think I want to be present for that. I feel like that's the biggest thing, is being present on these last couple ones. I'm excited for what like might happen next, and I think it'll be a really fun journey. I'm excited. I'm just trying to be present where I'm at, and see what happens, see what's in store.
That's so cool. And like, there is no such thing as wasted time, like, because like the Lord has prepared your heart in this season for, like, I think the Lord prepares our hearts for people and places, and also prepares people and places for our heart. And like, it's so cool to think like he's been preparing you in all this time, but like, gosh, what has he been doing and preparing in the hearts of whoever your person is while all this is happening?
Yeah,
and
definitely.
That'll be so cool to see. Yeah,
it will be cool to see. I will say I'm excited. All these dates have been with strangers. I'm excited to like actually go on a date where I like someone, like it's not just like this complete stranger. Like maybe someone like I have a crush on, or like that I actually kind of know. It's been straight. I'm like ready to go on like a date like that. I haven't done
that. Is so. I actually love that we rounded out with that, because that's so true. I think the biggest thing, especially like because I mean, like, I've followed the Lord. I love the Lord my whole life, but like I haven't always dated with that in mind. That didn't really happen until I feel like after I got out of college. And I was like, okay, like non-negotiable. Like they've got to love the Lord. Like that's number one. And then we'll figure the rest out. But I think sometimes we say that as Christian women. I remember I feeling this way. I was like, does that mean I can't, like, it doesn't, they don't have to be cute to me? Like, does that mean I
Yeah.
can't be like, I just have to marry someone that I'm like, oh, you know what? He loves the Lord though. And we have nothing else in common, but he loves the Lord. But like, God doesn't want that for you. Like the Song of Solomon, that whole book in the Bible, that man is so stoked about his girl and she is so excited for him. They are so attracted to one another. And like, they both love the Lord and each other. And like, I just love that you ended there because it's true. It's like, there is such an excitement when it comes to like the person that you're just curious by, you know, and intrigued by. And that's going to be so cool for you to experience that. I love that. Well, Liberty, you're amazing. Where can people find you?
Yeah, of course. My dating series is on Instagram and TikTok. It's at the Liberty Schultz. You can find me on there. I post all my dates on there, all kinds of fun, crazy stuff. I also host singles events. I have some singles pickleball events. If you're in Atlanta, doing one in
And
Nashville.
those are massive, like
They're so fun.
successful. I mean, I actually had a couple of girlfriends that went to one and they're like, Liberty's awesome. Like, it's just, they're so cool. So it's so cool to see what you're doing.
Yeah, it's super fun. I also have a podcast called It's a Date where we talk about a lot of similar things that we talked about today. A lot about dating. I have some of my dates on there. Get a boy perspective on dating. So super fun.
Ladies, all right. We love that. We love a good boy's perspective. They're often very different from ours.
They're crazy.
It's amazing how much I would think I would get done if my brain wasn't caught up with all the things that I think about, you know? No, Liberty, you're phenomenal. We are rooting you on here at Meet to Shine. And you are amazing. Like what you're doing is amazing, but also just like the way you shine God's light. Yes, on these days, but also like with your family, with your friends. Like it's so cool to see and so encouraging. So thanks for all you are. And thanks for being on the show today.
Thanks so much, Annie.